Yo guys, what's going on? NGS back again for another video. Taking a break from playing what I'm about to talk to you guys about today. Without further ado, let's get straight into this. Today, I'm going to be giving you guys my first impressions on Persona 5. And my god, it feels so fucking good to say those words. Now all we gotta do is wait till 2024 and we can say the phrase, my first impressions on Kingdom Hearts 3. Who are we kidding ourselves? Kingdom Hearts 3 is a myth. It doesn't exist. It's how I sleep at night. We all have our vices. Let me have mine. Anyways, without further ado, actually we have some laundry that we gotta air out before we start. As you can tell from my nasally and annoying voice, well, more so than usual annoying voice, I am suffering from a really nasty cold. What I've noticed here on YouTube is that I always tend to get sick whenever awesome stuff happens. It's crazy how that works. Yeah, really crazy. But hey, I ain't complaining. This is Persona week. I was gonna be in bed anyway, so hey, immune system, do your fucking job, my friend. And I think for once that was all of the laundry that we had to air out before the video. Wow, we're usually like 3 minutes in before we actually get to talking about something. So yeah, impressions on Persona 5. There's a lot that I gotta say, so excuse me if I sound more scatterbrained than usual. Whew, where to begin? Let me just talk about who I'm making this video for. I've noticed a lot here recently. There's been a lot of hype towards the Persona franchise, and we're all guilty of trying our very best to recommend it to people, myself included. You know, for the longest time I was trying to get people on this Persona train. And one of the problems that I kept running into was recommending a game in the series to people. Now, I know that sounds weird at first. You know, why wouldn't you recommend some of the newer titles like Persona 3 and Persona 4? But the problem was more accessibility than recommending the games because, brace for impact, Persona 4 is almost 10 years old. And recommending a game in 2013, 2014 to people that came out in 2008 on the PlayStation 2 was always a problem because not everyone's going to have a PS2 or a working PSP or a Vita to play Persona 3, 4, and some of the other games in the series, the older entries. Or heck, any Shin Megami Tensei game in general, you really needed to have older hardware in order to play them. But for those who were dedicated and went out there to play the games in the series and fall in love with not just Shin Megami Tensei, not just Persona, but everything that Alice has done as a whole, I commend you. But to the people out there who have never played a Persona game, I always told them, you know what? Wait till Persona 5 comes out. And that's something I normally don't do. I don't like to recommend people jump into something blind, because why would I make them waste their hard-earned $65 on something that they might not even like? But thankfully, I'm happy to report that Persona 5 not only is the perfect game for new fans of the series, but it is also a celebration and the perfect anniversary game for the Persona franchise. And those are pretty big words. I'm not saying that stuff lightly. You hear that time and time again. Oh, this is the best game of the series and it lives up to this, that, and the third. Persona 5 is everything. Anything that you can say about the series, this is it at its very best. Because not only do they, you know, keep the tradition of what they've been doing with the recent games in the series, Persona 3 and Persona 4, but they also go back and they pay homage to the older games in the series that, unfortunately, a lot of people haven't played. The original and Persona 2. Y'all are guilty of that. Don't start. Don't even start. My first game was Persona 4, but I went back and I played the other ones. Something y'all should do. They've been like $5 on PSN for like 30 years. Come on now. Come on. We can do better. We can do better. But yeah, Persona 5 is that, you know what, that's how I'm gonna start out the video. It is the perfect anniversary game because it does so many things right with the franchise while also understanding that this is a game releasing in 2016, 2017. One of the biggest problems that has plagued Japanese game development in general was trying to adapt to the evolving market, the growing Western market. A lot of things that we thought were acceptable in Japanese games like 10, 15, 20 years ago, not so much nowadays. And obviously you can make the case for every genre. They have their tropes and their cliches, but Japanese games in general really suffer for it more than anything. They always feel dated by comparison. I mean, look at something like Final Fantasy 15. Granted, that was in development for a damn near 10 years, but when you're playing the game, it feels so dated compared to all the other action games around. And just that's from the basic stuff like menu design and what have you. Persona, Atlas, nah. Just because their last mainline game was Persona 4 in 2008 doesn't mean that they didn't understand what people want. And one of the biggest complaints that people hear for Japanese games is what? Getting invested in the story as quick and as seamless as possible. And this is something that, you know, a lot of Japanese games, even some of the ones that I love, they're guilty of. They're guilty of the training wheels effect. They're guilty of taking like 8 to 10 hours to, you know, for you to even get a semblance of what is happening in the world and the story. And honestly, it sucks. And I don't say that stuff lightly. Some of my favorite games, like the Tales series, Tales of Grace's F. That's all I have to say. That fucking childhood arc. Yeah, we're just gonna stop right there. Persona 5 takes that entire concept of training wheels and flips it upside down. While it does hold your hand, like, you know, a lot of RPGs do in the beginning because they're trying to set up the world and the exposition and everything, it does it so organically that it doesn't even feel that you're playing like the intro, the beginning, the prologue, the world building, all that stuff. And it's handled very well because it's woven in with the story and the character interactions. Everything that happens in Persona 5 happens for a reason. It's not like they just throw you in this world and say, hey, have fun, do what you gotta do. No, everything happens for a reason. Everything has a purpose. There's a reason why things are the way they are. And we'll get to that later on in the video. But let's talk about what Persona is. You know, 7 minutes into the video, I did it again. Y'all know me, I love to ramble. That's why you're still watching, right? Right? I don't know. Quick break. We gotta keep these gains coming, man. No rest for the weary. What is Persona, right? A lot of you guys watch this video, they're like, yo, man, what the hell is Persona? How can you explain it to? Give me the elevator pitch, all right? So Persona is a high school simulator where you fight demons. That's the best way I can describe it, ladies and gentlemen. There's really not much to it. It is a game where you live the life of a high school student. By day, you worry about passing exams and working part-time jobs. And by night, you are badass phantom thieves. That is the best way I can describe Persona 5. It is literally just that. It is a game where you live the life of a high school student. You go around, you do high school things that people, you know, are known to do in high school. And then at night, you get to do these dungeons and these missions and these palaces and all this stuff. Now, I know what you're thinking. How in the world is that going to work? That sounds so fucking polarizing. It does, but like I said, Atlas is a master of woven these things together so it flows organically. Everything ties together. A lot of dungeon crawlers are victims of, how can I say this? You know when you're in the dungeon crawling section and you know when you're trying to do the story stuff. With Persona, they integrate the story into the high school life and the palace life, so everything comes full circle. It's not just go here, do this mission, come back, go here, do this mission, come back, pass your test. It's not like that at all. Everything is done on a calendar-based system, so you're, you know, going around like a typical school year would. You know, you wake up in the morning, you go to school, you go do your things. If you want to go do your dungeon crawling and stuff, you can do that. But there's a reason why you do said things. And it works great. This is one of the best things about the Persona games. They're really good simulators in that respect because, you know me, I've been out of high school for a while now. And the fact that they make me care about stuff that's happening in high school, like I said, I've seen so many fucking slice of life anime that I would not even care at this point. But Persona makes you care for that stuff. To the point where it's just like, damn, I wish I could take that part-time job, but I can't do it because I need to have more experience in this category. There's so many little things that you have to take advantage of that in other series you just take for granted. You know, it's not just you going and working this job so you can get some money. No, it's you going and working that job so you can boost your character traits. Because everything comes full circle. Everything happens for a reason. So, all the stuff that you do in the day, like enhancing your character traits and hanging out with your friends, all that stuff carries over to your stuff in battle with new abilities that actually help turn the tide of battle. I was trying to find a different term because I just said battle twice, but whatever, fuck it, it's like 2 a.m. So yeah, I really do appreciate that. I love that aspect in Persona. It flows so organically. Now, let's talk about since I mentioned, let's talk about the dungeons, the palaces in this. Persona is, for lack of a better term, it's a dungeon crawler. A dungeon crawler, for those of you guys who are unaware, is where you're just set up in this arena and you go, you kill demons, you look for treasures, stuff like that. In previous games in the series, like let's take Persona 4 for example, because that was the last major mainline entry. That game, the level design was kind of all over the place. It was more focused on the backgrounds and the actual path at hand. It was just more or less you walking down this path and then taking, certain left turns and right turns and open up certain doors. There wasn't much originality because it was a PlayStation 2 game, a mid-range budget PlayStation 2 game. It wasn't on something like on the level of Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy 12, Final Fantasy 13. It just wasn't there. Granted, Persona 5 probably had a bigger budget, but it's still not on that level of like crazy open world. But it doesn't need to be, because what they did was they worked with what they knew so well, which was creating great dungeons. So instead of them being this generic, like let's just repeat this over and over again, all of the dungeons have personality. So they're based on the themes of the world, and it almost feels like they're 3D in the sense that it's not just you going there and doing what you have to do. Go to this room, get that treasure, do that. There are many ways for you to go about this. It's very vertical, so you're always going to be jumping on top of things, going and climbing onto the ceilings, and doing stuff from there. So it's not just go here, go there, go there, go there, like the past games. There is a lot more of verticality to it and originality, which I really do like. It breaks up the monotony of the typical dungeon crawler-esque games, and I really do love that. Another thing that I really do love, again compared to the past games in the series, is how this one stresses more than anything taking your time. And by that I mean it's not necessarily focused on you rushing like crazy to beat the story, because what you'll notice if you're playing this game is that it can be kind of challenging for people who have never played dungeon crawlers before. Now I'm not saying it's impossible, don't get it twisted, but it's not a game that like hands out like 50 items when you beat an enemy, or you get like a crazy amount of EXP. Like the main like grunts that you fight in the dungeons, the EXP is pretty low really early on. Like I said, I'm only like 15 hours and I just did the first palace, but you're not going to get a lot of experience and items. So you have to cherish the stuff you do get. So much to the point where normally when I would do a dungeon run, like in Persona 4, I would finish it up in one run. Very rarely did I have to retreat and come back another day. In this one, I was, leaving the dungeon with all my yen, buying health items, going back, doing demon negotiations and getting more money, and just doing all the things I had to make sure that I was prepared for the stuff that was ahead. And it really does help. So that's another tip if you're just starting out. Focus on the things that matter. Don't necessarily go into battles guns blazing, using all your SP and all your special moves because they're cool. You want to conserve that stuff because really early on, you don't get a lot of items that'll help restore your SP. And you'll notice when you get further on in the first palace, some enemies you're going to need to use a lot of SP on. So conserve your items, and when you're getting into demon negotiations, always ask for money because you can get money and buy certain things. That's another thing we should talk about. Demon negotiations. Demon negotiations are back. They were in previous games in the Shin Megami Tensei series, and they're making a return in Persona 5. So basically, how this goes about, I mentioned a lot of talk about demons. A lot of people never play Persona. What are these demons, man? Think of it like Pokemon, right? You know how you catch your Pokemon with a Pokeball? In this game, you have to capture your demons, which are essentially going to be your allies, your personas, and you can use their abilities. The way you capture them is through negotiations. You talk to them. So, like, let's say, for example, this enemy is close to death. They'll be like, wait, please stop. Don't kill me. And then you get into a conversation. Think of it like you trying to persuade them to join your side. Now, the conversations aren't crazy like that where you really have to know what to say, but it gives you an option for things, and you have to play along, and you just select the right choices on what you think they would react to. You know, it's nothing too insane, but they do have a good bit of variety to them, so it's not just the same thing for every demon. And then from there, you recruit the demons, and then the demons level up a la Pokemon. So they get new skills, and you can merge these demons together to create even more powerful personas. More powerful personas means more powerful skills and tools at your disposal. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just running and gunning with your baseline persona. You actually have to take advantage of certain things. You have to focus on buffs, debuffs, like you would in any other RPG. So yeah, there's a lot of things in this game just from the first 15 hours that you really have to pay attention to, because it sets the stage for stuff that's happening later on. Like I said, I'm 15 hours in. I'm not too crazy as far as what they let me do. I'm not into too much crazy stuff, but I can see where things are going. And I like that they have this sort of, hey, listen, take your time approach early on, as opposed to just saying, hey, have fun, do what you got to do, fam, and then just, you know, trying to fend for yourself. I really do like that. Also, another thing that I'm really enjoying the crap out of, like I said before, just going back to the older games in the series like Persona 4, just looking at the attention to detail and the level designs and all that stuff, you know, it really does feel like you're in Tokyo. Like when you're going through the subways, there are going to be people who are just talking, you know, randomly bubbles pop up and they're talking about the current events. You'll hear some dialogue, and it's stuff that's relevant to the actual story. Contrast that to, like, you know, other JRPGs where you have the NPCs that you have to interact with, and sometimes they're talking. This one, they're already up there, they're lively, and it just it really makes the world feel alive. This isn't an open world by any stretch of the imagination, but this also isn't something that's closed off, linear, where you can't do anything. There's a lot to do and there's a lot to explore, because the Persona games, more than anything, if there's something you want to take away from this video, is you want to enjoy your experience. It's not just about going through the story, it's about everything surrounding the story with these characters. I mentioned hanging out with your friends, right? When you're hanging out with your friends, that stuff helps tremendously in battle, but it also helps get to know the characters. You learn about these characters, what they're all about, and Persona has some of the deepest characters in all of RPGs, man. They're not just your typical tropes of things. Like, these are some pretty damaged individuals, and it's awesome, you know, and the way that these guys, the main three that I met, and how they're intertwined with the main story is done very organically, and I love it. So much to the point where, you know, normally you kind of, you know, shrug off some of the stuff that's happening, like, oh, you know, typical cliche. But let me just say this. There is a reason why Persona is rated M for mature. You look at these characters and you think, oh, it's just some, you know, anime weeb drama stuff. Nah, the first Palace deals with some really sensitive subject matter. I'm talking about stuff that we deal with on the daily. I'm not going to say too much because spoilers, but stuff about sexual harassment and the concept of maybe we're too hard on, you know, the young kids who are aspiring athletes and everything. It's some pretty sensitive shit, man. And I was like, damn. Again, leave it to Atlas to really capture that experience of things that people go through. And yeah, just all the little things, all the little subtle nuances, the fact that you have smartphones and you're talking with your friends in the group chats, and everything just feels in place. It doesn't feel out of place. It doesn't feel forced. Everything just feels natural, and that's the best thing that I could give a game that I'm playing for like the first 15 hours. If everything feels good and it doesn't feel forced or regurgitated, or I have problems here and doing that, that's how I know I have a good game. And I just can't wait to play more, because I know, like I said, I'm getting further on in the game, that there's so much in store, and I welcome it. I look forward to it. And I'm excited, man. I'm so freaking excited. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I needed to bring up, but I think I pretty much touched up on everything. So if you were interested in Persona after watching this video, I implore you to check it out. You know, I don't say pick up a game day one, you know, too often, but Persona definitely, I think, if you're like a lapsed Japanese RPG fan, if you grew up playing great games like Chrono Trigger, if you grew up like in that era and you really haven't played a great Japanese RPG since, like I'm talking generation genre defying, then definitely check out the Persona series. I think you will definitely enjoy it. And then from there you can work your way back towards the older games like Persona 2 and the first Persona, and then some of the other games in the Shin Megami Tensei series like Digital Devil Saga and all that stuff. But yeah, from me to you for now, my name is NGS signing out. Wow, we actually got this done in under 30 minutes. That's freaking awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you watch this all in one take and you're actually up right now when I'm recording this, what's up? How you doing? Real nigga hours. Hashtag smash that motherfucking like button. I'm NGS signing out like always. I will catch you guys later. Peace. I honestly thought it stopped recording. Guess not.